Okay, so today what I'm going to be talking about, I'm just going to read out my title that I have written down here. How to be a financially successful woman without sacrificing your femininity. And what do you really care more about, empowerment or radiance? Okay, so the reason that I am talking about this today is because I've done a lot of posts, especially a lot of posts recently about empowered women. And I want to clarify a few things about that. I want to clarify my perspective on it, my feelings about empowered women, right? Especially, financially driven empowered women. So I think that I've caused a bit of a misperception by some people, which I actually take responsibility for, because sometimes I'm not fully clear. So I just want to clarify. I don't give a shit if women want to be extremely empowered in every way possible in their life. Empowered in the way that I talk about, like masculinized, right? Like masculinized empowerment. So like driven, very financially successful, all that kind of stuff, right? So that's fine. And that's great if that's what makes you happy. My issue, right? My big issue is that masculine empowerment for women is being sold um, as being feminine. There's nothing feminine about that. Nothing feminine about that. That is being masculine. And if that is what women want to do, that's fantastic, right? That's great, because I believe everybody has the free choice to do whatever they want in their life. Whatever makes them happy, I'm really cool about that. But what I'm not cool about is I'm not cool about when something is being taught, right? I don't care what it is that's being taught, that is completely different than reality, that is leading people astray. That is very concerning to me. So when masculinized empowerment for women is being branded as being feminine, that's a really big problem, especially because a lot of women who will believe things like that probably do want a man at some point, right? And not well, hopefully not a weak, masculated man who has no ability to lead and just wants to talk about his feelings all day. If that is what an empowered woman wants, well, fantastic, because that's exactly what she's going to get. And then, they can be very happy together and that'll work out great. But for women who would like to be, very financially successful and empowered, whatever, and want a really strong masculine leader of a man, well, if they're only working on that empowerment side of themselves and becoming increasingly masculinized, they're going to be extremely disappointed, because a masculine man does not want a woman like that. She doesn't offer him anything, right? A radiant feminine woman offers a man like that so much, um, through her radiance, through her softness, through her vulnerability, through her like acceptance and submission. And like that's what a man is, like a masculine man is really attracted to. And so, I was thinking about this today. I was thinking about, like, I have this friend, or at least I used to have this friend. He's a guy, but he's so feminine. I really like him though. He's so funny. He's just if he was a woman, there'd be so many masculine men that would love to date him. He's just so vulnerable and so like authentic and just in touch with his feelings, and just like, expresses, every insecurity and it says when he's jealous and like, I feel really sad right now, like basically all the stuff that I teach women how to do in my feminine group, he's like already mastered a lot of it. And actually, some of it I've actually learned from him, right? Because when I met him, I'm like, oh my God, like this guy is just so different than pretty much anyone I've met. Just like so honest and courageous in what I would call a very feminine way. So he's a very interesting guy. But like basically calling like masculinized empowerment for women as feminine would be like calling him masculine. Like that's the ridiculousness of it to me in my mind. It's like there's nothing masculine about him. He's a really cool guy. I really like him. I was friends with him for quite a while, and I really enjoyed my time with him. And he's like I really wish him the best. I love him, but he's feminine. He's feminine in every way possible. And the only type of women he will ever attract, or at least the only type of women he will ever hold on to, would be extremely masculine women who know how to lead, because he definitely sure as hell does not know how to lead. But he's great at being vulnerable. He's great at expressing his feelings. Um, he's great at being a woman, basically. And do we have any questions yet? Alicia says, you're super handsome. Thank you. Kiarna, I don't know if that's how I pronounce that. It's nauseating for me. I'm not sure which part that was for, the masculinized women or for the feminized men, but Kareen says a woman can operate in masculine energy at work and feminine at home, right? Okay, so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about for a bit. So yes, it is certainly possible for a woman to work in her masculine and then go home and be in her feminine. But it's going to be difficult, right? Because here's the thing, like I work to be in my masculine all day, right? And all my waking hours. So I am constantly working on becoming a more masculine man. Which is great for my wife because that works in our relationship, right? But if I was spending, let's say I spent like 9 hours taking care of a baby, right, and mothering a baby, giving him bottles and changing diapers, which I did do for a while, right? I did do. Yes, I can be in that feminine energy for 9 hours a day. I'd probably want to kill myself at some point, but yes, I could do it. And then, yes, I could switch into a more masculine energy with my wife. But number one, it would be incredibly draining to be in my feminine energy for that long. And then number two, it's hard to switch out of that, right? Like it's like going 150 kilometers an hour and then suddenly reversing, right? Like it's a complete energy switch. And then for those 9 hours as well, I'm not working on my masculine energy. I'm not developing myself in that way. So yes, it could be done. Yes, I can do it. But is it optimal? No, it's definitely not close to optimal. But yes, it is possible. And then it's the same for women, right? Yes, absolutely. Women can be in their masculine energy for 8, 9, 10, whatever hours a day, and then they can go home and slip into their feminine, soften into their feminine with their man. There's lots of women doing that. Absolutely, 100%. It's just not optimal because they're going to be drained all day, and then it's a huge switch that they have to make, right? But yes, it can be done, and it needs to be done. It absolutely has to be done if you want to be with a masculine man, because a masculine man's not going to stick around with a woman who is masculine all day and then stays in her masculine when she comes home as well. So so that is a problem in itself. But the bigger problem, the much bigger problem, is when women don't even realize what real feminine energy is, right? Because at least if you're a feminine woman, right, you can go out and work, which is draining, or do your business or whatever it is you're doing, and then soften when you're with your man and be much more feminine. If you really understand what being feminine is, feminine energy and all of that stuff. But if you don't even know that, then you're in for much bigger problems, right? Like, one of the most important things about being a woman is to be able to be really vulnerable. And a huge part of feminine communication, right? Like, that's one of the big things I teach in my groups is feminine communication, because feminine communication is just not really taught. Where you express problems instead of expressing solutions. You express yourself without trying to get an outcome instead of leading a situation to get an outcome. You're expressing feelings from your heart instead of, making judgments about a man's behavior, for example, right? Like, there's a ton to it. There's a lot to it, and I can tell you from experience, pretty much almost no woman is really good at that form of communication. From my very widespread dating experience, is just women don't really know how to communicate in that way for whatever reason. It's not taught. In fact, women are taught the opposite. So that is extremely important if you're going to soften with your man. But if you are at work all day and you're in your masculine and you're solution driven and solving problems and telling people what to do or whatever, you better be spending a lot of time and energy working on feminine communication and feminine energy, because otherwise it's going to be really hard to reverse. I guess got a few more questions here. I totally get duped by this idea. I thought I'd be very attractive when I have everything together, not show any weakness, but I saw the men I wanted to be with went for less together women. Absolutely, right? And that's part of the whole false indoctrination that's been going on about that is convincing women that they should be something that masculine men don't want at all. And that can actually be like, it's incredibly, like, I can't even imagine how hurtful that would be to, you get all your shit together as a woman, you figure everything out, you're, successful in life, and you finally have everything you want, except now you can't get a man, or you can't get a masculine man. And it's only emasculated, feminized men that want to be led that you're attracting now. It's like, what the hell do I do? Well, now you have to learn to be feminine, and you have to let go of all that stuff and really drop into your feminine energy. And as you do that, right, as you become more feminine, it actually becomes increasingly difficult to balance that masculine area of your life of having, like, especially if it's like a job that requires you to be extremely driven and and like focused and super goal oriented and all that stuff. The best option, if women can handle it, or get to that point anyway, is to have a business where all the more masculine stuff is taken care of by other people, and then a woman could just focus on the more like creative aspects, which requires a lot more feminine energy. And then all the selling and advertising and organization and stuff, that's handled by other people. Because otherwise, as you increasingly soften, get in touch with your feminine energy, learn to just let go of control and all that stuff, and you really, really get good at it, it's going to become increasingly difficult and draining to handle that part of your life. So, and you got to be prepared for that, right? It's like, in a way, it is a sacrifice. And you've got to choose it. And it is possible to do both, right? But there's always, what's the word? Not sacrifices. There's always a price. There's always a price for whatever you choose. I don't want to be the provider in a relationship, and to know that I don't have to compete with that masculine providing force is super relaxing. Absolutely. Maria, how can I be more feminine at work when I'm running, overseeing projects, and I'm used to being in my masculine to do so? Well, it really depends. It depends on the workplace. It depends on the people who are working for you. What I can tell you is I have had bosses, like women bosses, that were very feminine and not directive at all. Like, they're just very soft and warm. And I just wanted to like rise up and be a better employee and a better man for them. Like they wouldn't even really tell me what to do. It's kind of hard to explain. It's just like, they're just, she was just like so radiant in that position, even though she was in a position of authority over me. It just felt like, oh, this is just a woman that I want to like serve in a way. So it is possible to do it, at least in certain jobs, but it requires a totally different, like 100% different energy, where it's not directive. It's just like expressive, and people just want to do things for you, especially men, because of how feminine that you are. When they step up and lead, it's easier to be in the fem. Yeah, it is, right? Of course, when men step up, it's easier to be in your feminine, but that's exactly the same for a man, right? Like, it's a lot easier to feel like a man and be a man and step up when a woman is in her feminine, right? It's the other person is polarizing you. And that's great, except that now it's a crutch. It's like you're using them as a crutch, instead of it just being who you are naturally. So just like men should be working on polarizing themselves so that they're polarized no matter who they're interacting with, it's the same thing with women. You can polarize yourself so deep into your feminine that pretty much every man becomes polarized in their masculine and just steps up and feels compelled to want to start leading for you, because you're just so radiant and feminine. They just feel so safe and manly in your presence. It's really interesting. What are we at? 16 minutes. Okay, do one more question or statement, and we'll wrap it up. So if I'm in the beginning stages of a relationship, should I avoid talking to him about work and how I run my business? I would like to be more feminine in my relationship. I would avoid it. I mean, I can't even remember a time where I actually enjoyed talking about a woman's job anyway that I was dating. It's just not interesting. I'd much rather just be interested in her opinions about things and her feelings. Yeah, when you get into talking about how you're running your business, it's like almost like a teaching thing. Like, I just can't imagine any man, like any masculine man, would be particularly interested in that. And worse than that, when you're talking about that, I would imagine it would be harder to really get into your feminine energy and your heart space and express from there. Like, that seems like something you'd be communicating more through your mind, more with masculine energy, and that's definitely not going to pull a man in. Yeah, so for anyone that's watching, whether you are really focusing on, like for women, like if you are really focusing on your business, or your job or whatever it is, and you're realizing like you need to be working on your feminine energy, your feminine communication, all that kind of stuff, you can balance it, and you can develop both, develop both your masculine energy and your feminine energy. And if you want a masculine man, and you're also working or running a business, I really recommend you join our feminine group for women, because it will be transformational for you. Like, if you want to learn how to become a really feminine woman, a really radiant feminine woman, and learn like how to easily tap into your heart and how to tap into your feminine energy easily, just with your words, that's what we teach in this group. It's just, you say the right words, and you're right there, you're tapped into your heart, you're tapped into your feminine energy, instead of like getting confused, like, oh, how do I find my feminine energy? I gotta do a whole bunch of yoga and like do some paintings, whatever. I'll tap into my feminine energy that way. Yeah, that's great. That's really not going to help you when you're interacting with your man. But feminine communication will, big time, help you tap into your heart, help you tap into your feminine energy. And that's what we do in our private group. So if you are interested in that, my website's relationshipofyourdreams.com. You can subscribe there from the homepage, and you will learn all these communication tools very quickly, right? It's like when you start to learn it, it's like it becomes so obvious after a while. It's like, wow, why, like, how did I not know this my entire life? But it's because you haven't been exposed to it. You haven't been exposed to it, and you've probably been it's been like hammered out of you as like a weak thing, right? That's the big problem. It's like it's seen as weak and immature, childish to communicate this way, but it's not. That's a huge load of bullshit. And that's one of the first things, like the first fears and discomforts that you got to get over with feminine communication, because it's none of those things. It's just it's feminine, and it's okay, and it's beautiful, and it's what a man needs. It's what a masculine man needs to feel like a leader, to feel like a man, to be able to relate to a woman, a man to a woman. Yeah, so hopefully this video has been helpful. There's not much. I got more to say, but I've already. Oh, I'm already at 20 minutes. So yeah, I'm done. I already went 5 minutes over what I was supposed to. So thank you guys for listening, and I'll do another one soon.